Hello and welcome back to Totally Accurate Battle Simulator, and this game recently updated and added the map creator, and I've messed around with it a bit, so I thought I'd share what I've learned about how to use it. I'm recording this on the 6th, so they might release a patch before this video comes out, but it shouldn't change too much if they do. Anyway, let's get on with the tutorial by pressing the handy button on the main menu. This button takes you to the map creator start menu, where you can create a new map, load a map, and you have your 10 most recent maps, of which I have 2. You can load your maps from other maps you have locally that aren't recent or ones you've downloaded, but we're going to create a new map. You then go to this screen and you can change the visual style, which basically just changes the colour of the ground and the default trees. We're going to go with Viking because I feel like it. We then have the options to have a default regenerated one, or you can have a large island, small island, or no island. We are going to go with a small island and just press the create buttons. And now we are here. We can use WASD, space, control, shift, move around. But then we have a bunch of stuff on the screen. So the top button in the top left, it says P and play. So you can press that and you just go into the normal mode of placing units. It takes a second to load, which is slightly scary. And we can just go and shove people on it and then they can fight like normal gameplay. Wow, that was actually nice. Wow, great fight, guys. They just can't hit each other. There we go. We can then press this button in the top right to go back to the map creator, and we can continue editing it. Then the button underneath play says toggle bar with tab. So you press that. You've got undo and redo buttons, or you can press Z and Y on your keyboard. There's the button to the start menu, which is just that menu, well, this menu. If you want to open something else, you can then save it as a new save. Once you have saved it, there is another button that appears underneath it for quick save, which is just save as the file that you're working on. And then you can change the map settings. You can change the weather, so we're going to make it nice and snowy. No, it's going to be clear, because otherwise it's annoying. You can then change the water height. You have quite a lot of control over this, and if you want to, you can just turn it off and make yourself in the sky. We're going to bring that back, and we're going to put it up there. You can then change the music. I'll just leave it there. And you can swap to a different preset if you don't like the one you've chosen. And now it's time to talk about all the stuff along the bottom. So there are 4 modes. You have the place object mode, the utility mode, sculpt mode, and mayhem mode. And we are going to start off with sculpt because that's generally the thing you want to do first. So as you'll see at the bottom, we have a bunch of things. We can scroll between them, and then we can click to place. We can right click to delete, and then we can middle click to smooth things out. I'd make this a random lump on my island. We can then press E to lock it at a certain distance from me, so it's no longer placing on the ground, it's going underneath the ground, and no matter where I look, it's always the same distance from the camera. When I move the camera, it moves with me. Or we can press V, which locks it to a certain height, so no matter where I am or where I'm looking, it's always going to be a certain height. You can also press both at once, which doesn't work. It limits the distance that you can go to. It'll always be on the ground, but you can still move it closer to you. We then have this little button on the right that says R, and so we press R, and we then have some more options for the placement. We can rotate how we're placing it. You can sort of change the roughness of it, so you can go from being a perfect circle to being a bit of a blobby, wonky circle. I like it to be nice and round. We can then change the size, and we can change the strength of the placement. So if I have this on max and I place it, you see we've created a little circle. But if I have it on minimum, we just slightly raise the ground a little. There's also different useful shapes that you might want to use, like you can make some stairs. It's a bit wonky sometimes, but it's tabs what you're expecting. And then we're going to go on to the 4th mode, which is mayhem, because this is also something that will ruin other stuff if you make it. So you've got fire. Doesn't delete the snow. We will come back to this when it does something. We then have the growing stuff. So we can grow a bunch of things around if we want. We can also delete stuff, and if you press E, we can change what we're doing. So I want some nice Viking forest around here. I can place in a bunch of Viking forest. If I decide that I don't want this farmland forest, I can go and select farmland forest, and then I can delete just the farmland forest, and it won't delete the Viking forest because I've selected on farmland forest. We can then go to the next one, which is the paint. So you can left click to paint rock colour, and you can just paint everything rocky colour, which for snowy maps is quite a dark grey. You can then right click to paint the normal colour, which for most maps is grassy green, and for Viking maps it is just white. This is also the default colour for the terrain you're putting it on, so like the side of these mountains stay grey because that's what the side of mountains looks like. Or we can middle click, which is a third one, which in this case is blue. On a lot of the grassy maps it is some sort of dirt brown. In this case it's icy blue. Then the next one is lightning, just like strike it down from above. So you can have a little lightning strike, or if you hold down the right click, it charges up and then releases a very big one. And the next thing is the earthquake rift creation. So you can left click to create a bunch of rifts, or you can right click to create a load of rifts. And it just creates so many holes and it looks kind of wonky. Not the most useful of things. We then have the meteor, so you can click once to summon a meteor with the left click, or you can click once with the right click to summon a bunch of meteors and just pummel your island out of existence. Or you can like spam the button and then you get a ridiculous amount of meteors. The next option is the volcano creator, which does this. It just makes a volcano. It then spews out some fire particles and then stops, and you're just left with a big grey volcano. You then have the rain. You just point at something and click and it rains and smooths things down. It's quite effective and it lasts for a while after you click the button. It keeps going. Then you have the fun thing of balloons. So we can make a throwing sound and we can throw them. Wait, they bounce on water? They actually do. But what you do is you throw it at an object, a balloon sticks to it, and it flies away. Also you can go and pick a bunch of balloons or something, and then it goes away very fast. Or you can just like spam the button and say, I don't like half these trees, goodbye. You then have the magnet. You can left click to push things away, and so we can just clear this by shoving all the trees off the land, or we can right click to bring them all together, which just creates like a hybrid giant tree with lots of different trees stuck inside it, and it looks a bit wonky. And then we have the last one, which is to change the time of day. So what you do is you hold click and then you move the mouse around and it moves the sun around. It's a bit weird how it moves. I don't entirely understand it. You just have to sort of fiddle about with it and get the time of day that you want. Then you just let go and it just stays. We are now going to go to the first category, which is the placement category. So we then have another line of stuff at the bottom we can scroll through, and what we do is we press E and that goes into the placement mode. We can still scroll and go between different things if we want. We can go and get some nice path. We can then left click to place it down, and we can right click to delete things. Notice that it takes you out of the placement mode and you have to press E to go back again. You can press Q and E to rotate things, and you can press Shift, Q and E to make things smaller and larger, so we can have big paths and little paths. You can also then press V, which locks it in a certain place, and then you can move your mouse up and down. It doesn't work very well with paths for some reason, so I can get something to work better with, like this random archway. What we can do is we can press V, and then it goes into like height movement mode, so if you want to, you can have it sunk into the ground. It then lets you go and place another one for whatever reason you might want to, or use V again to unlock it and you can go back to placing it. This is also slightly buggy, because now for some reason it's placing it in the sky. I don't know how that works. If you scroll away from it and come back to it, it's placing it on the ground again as it should be. Now the use of the V button is that sometimes if you're placing something near the edge of something, you've got, let me just delete this, you've got this nasty looking thing here. So what you can do is, instead of placing by pressing E, you can click it to select it, then you can rotate it, you can make it bigger, you can make it smaller, and you can press V from here as well after you've placed it to go and move it so that it's in the ground here and you don't have a gap underneath it. You can also press the B button to just bring up the big menu of everything. It's all into different categories within larger categories. You've got the architecture with all the stairs, platforms, pillars, fences, arches, bridges. You've got buildings, you've got houses and temples. These are all useful for building cities and stuff. Foliage, you've got bushes, dead trees, plants, roots, trees, lots of trees. You have the landscape, which just has rocks and more rocks and more rocks. You have all of the props, and there's quite a few. There's all sorts of barrels and crates and stuff. You've got pumpkins, lots of pumpkins. Out of the food category, there's only 4 things in it that aren't pumpkins. You've got some benches and stools, table, chair, random misc stuff. There's quite a few gold piles and chests and things. A variety of bottles and jugs. Some other stuff. There's a couple of boats, a couple of wagons. Then you have some swords, axes, spears, helmets, pitchforks, shields, that sort of thing. Then you have dispensers, spawners, and triggers. So what you can do is you can say, I want a dispenser for a bomb. Now for some reason, that's a cannon. What you can then do is, now we're in the category of tools, me scrolling goes between all the tools. So what we can do is we can place a trigger down. What we can then do is we can press R, click this, and then click the cannon. And now, whenever a unit goes on here, it's going to fire the cannon. And it's going to launch a bomb at them. There's a repeater and a sequencer, so you can adjust the timings and make things happen multiple times. I haven't messed around with this stuff very much. I'm not entirely sure how it works, but I'm sure you can create some very interesting things with it. Oh, you can also summon tornadoes and meteors. And then the last category of props is the effects tab, and you have a lot of effects. There's quite a lot of cool things, lots of fire, lots of explosions. Basically, most of the effects from the game you can just create as spawners. Like we can go to explosion, yes, and we can stick that down. And now, just going on eternally, there is a little potion explosion going on over here. Some of them you can shrink, like this one. You can shrink the particles. For some reason, the swirly particles don't shrink, but you can shrink the cloudy green particles. Those shrink when you scale the spawner. A lot of the spawners, when you scale the spawner, it doesn't actually change the size of the effect. This one is one of the ones that it does sort of work on. The final category to talk about is the utility category. And you have 2 options for this. You have the select mode, in which you can just select stuff. And then what you do is, once you've selected it, you can then say, actually, I don't want to select this tree. I can right click to deselect that tree. I can say, actually, I want to move the spawns as well, using your left and right clicks to select and deselect. You then press V to go into movement mode, and then you can click it, move it around, and click it again to place. Or you can press E to clone it and put it somewhere else. So we can clone this and put it over here, and now we've got even more of them. Then the second thing you have in this category is line drawing thing. What you can do with this is you can get an object like this tree and you can drag in a line. You can see we've then got a bunch of ghost trees. What we can do is we can press Q and E to increase and decrease the amount of stuff you're placing. You can press Shift, Q and E to rotate them, and if you press V, it locks it to these sort of cardinal directions so that you can have them on axes. You may also notice that in the bottom we have our categories and the B button is still there. This takes us back to this menu, even though we weren't there before. If I then select something from here, we are now into the placement mode without having to have gone through the pressing 1 to go to place mode, then scrolling around to find it, and then pressing E. We can just press B, go straight to place mode, and we are already placing the object. Some things, the V is a bit buggy for. Like, I want to not be in the sky, but the game has decided that it must be in the sky. Oh, no, it's not in the sky. Yeah, this is incredibly, like, sensitive to me moving the mouse. But anyway, we now have a little lighthouse. The V mode for placing objects is definitely a bit buggy. I hope they fix it. It just is sometimes not sensitive at all, just doesn't move, and then sometimes it's really sensitive. So I'm just going to go and stick some more trees around here because there's clearly not enough. Oh, we can also press R on this to change the radius of the brush for a lot of these as well. It's not just sculpting that has the R button functionality. It's, wait, you can change this. You can change the color. I didn't know you could do this. I just found out. I forgot to mention the fire mode, which just destroys things. I did not mean to do that. I want to destroy that tree, which just destroys things, has a V button, which appears to tell you whether it's destroying foliage and destroying everything. However, it destroys everything anyway, so I'm not entirely sure what it does. Go nice and blue. It's going to be nice and bright. Yes, we want it to be nice and bright. There we go. And so here we have a terrible map that I made to demonstrate the uses of the map creator. You can, of course, create much more interesting things, like this map I made, which is based on Osgiliath from Lord of the Rings. This took me a little while to make. There is a lot of stuff going on. It's available on the workshop for you to download and enjoy, along with countless other things from people who have already made huge maps, even though it's been out like a week. It's ridiculous the amount of stuff that already exists in the workshop for the map creator. But that's going to be it for this video, so thanks for watching. I hope I taught you something about the map creator, and thank you for watching. Don't get distracted, go subscribe now, and until next time, goodbye.